So welcome everybody. My name is Ilsa May. I'm part of the Econ Career Development Office, and we have two amazing alums with us tonight, recent alums, to talk about their experience within their career fields, with their employers, as well as kind of maybe how they used Econ or how they use Econ in their day-to-day work environment. So the first question that I'm going to kind of kick off, so everybody can kind of get to know who we're speaking with tonight, is having the panelists just introduce themselves. So if you two could both kind of say your name, year you graduated, and maybe what majors or certificates you pursued, and then what are you doing now? What's the company you're working at, and your position and title? So Shloka, would you like to get started?
Yes, of course. Awesome. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, Ilsa. Really appreciate it. So my name is Shloka Rathi, and I graduated in 2020. I was a Econ and Communications double major, so I was part of Letters and Sciences, and I did a double minor in entrepreneurship and digital studies. So entrepreneurship was from the B school, and then digital studies was from part of, I believe I was able to do it with my communication major. So overall, amazing experience. I feel like one thing that I love about Wisconsin as a whole is how much you can do in the time that you have. So currently I work at Oracle, and I am an application account executive. So my role is in software sales. I started off last year as a business development consultant. In around 10 months, I was actually promoted, which was amazing. And now I work in more of a very hands-on sales role, which I will give you a lot more info about as this conversation goes on. And Morgan, you can go ahead and passing the virtual baton to you.
Thank you, Shloka. I'll echo what she said. Thank you very much, Ilsa, for having me tonight. It's always awesome to be able to get in touch with some current UW-Madison students and basically like just get them excited for what's going to happen after graduation. So I was class of 2018, which I guess has been like a couple of years now. I'm starting to feel old. I studied economics and mathematics. And then a lot of my coursework was also in statistics and Russian. I didn't end up getting majors, but I like to tell people that too, because I want people to like explore outside of their majors as well. I think it's really important and just kind of like enriches your education. So yeah, I'm a research assistant at the Boston Fed. I work for a couple different economists, some in the Public Policy Center, who do a lot of research that focuses on regional economics around New England, as well as the macro financial unit, which is a bit more of the, the monetary policy that you learn about if you do something like the Fed Challenge, as well as like all the working papers that they produce throughout the year that are on a bunch of different topics.
Excellent, thank you both. So just for the students that are here attending today, like I said, again, welcome. If you want to put in the chat, just kind of we already have your name, but your year in school and maybe a question you have or why you really wanted to attend the session tonight. That'd be really helpful for me and for Shloka and Morgan to just kind of understand like who's joining us, what year in school you are, because you might have different questions. So feel free to, as we continue asking questions, put that information in. Additionally, I will have opportunities for you all to ask questions. So I have some pre-prepared questions. So I'll kind of pose those to the two alums here. And then, but if anything comes up based off what they say, or just questions you have generally, again, feel free to throw them in the chat and then I'll use that at various points to kind of facilitate audience questions. So after the introductions, and those were beautiful, I guess, Morgan, if you were talking a little bit about the different divisions you work in, could you talk a little bit about some key projects or duties your role oversees? So kind of like main responsibilities, and does that relate to the econ major at all?
Yeah, definitely. So as a research assistant at the Fed, we often get asked, like, what does your average day look like? Or what does your regular work day look like? But to be quite honest, it totally depends on the day, the project, and the economist. So some Feds do it differently. They have like a pooled RA system, but at the Boston Fed, as well as the New York Fed, I believe, you are paired with just one or two economists throughout your tenure as a research assistant. And so that gives you the unique opportunity to sort of work on projects from start to finish. So in the years that I've been at the Fed, I worked on a paper that was related to how school finance and state aid might ameliorate or exacerbate racial achievement gaps that are already existing in public school districts. I'm still currently working on a project that is using an insurance claims database for the state of Rhode Island to try and better understand how the Medicaid expansion basically like improved access to medication assisted treatment for people who are suffering from opioid use disorder. In the macrofinance unit then, which is like a total 180 from here, I've been working on a paper that sort of seeks to understand how the government's use of banks as the agents who disseminated PPP funding might have distorted like the funds away from what the societally optimal allocation would have been. And then there's like this really fun kind of sister paper that goes with that, which is really just like an exercise in econometrics and walks through why many different economists who use different data sets and different levels of data to study the same question come up with statistically significant but totally opposing results and just kind of reconciles them. So I think on a day-to-day basis, most of the tasks that I do, like anyone could do, right? Like I didn't need an economics or a mathematics major to, you know, go on the internet and look up, how do I make this graph in R? Or, you know, search something in a journal. But I do find that, you know, especially as you get past your initial training, just your knowledge and your grasp of econometrics, especially, and just kind of economic intuition in general is what makes or breaks you as a good research assistant. So being able to like look at the data and see what your code is spitting out and recognize like, yes, this makes sense. No, it doesn't. What kind of follow-up questions come from that? And having your boss be able to trust you to sort of take the lead a little bit. I find that that's very, how to say this, like it's kind of highly correlated with like how you did in undergrad as an econ student, not necessarily like your grades, but you know, what kind of classes you were taking, were you challenging yourselves, seeking out internships, you know, trying to like take classes where they have projects at the end rather than just problem sets the whole time. So I feel like for me, that's where my education like really kicks in. That, and then also just in the recruiting process, I think the research assistant position is pretty competitive. And so they do weight GPA heavily. This might be a separate question, but I just wanted to note that like, it is worth working really hard in undergrad to have a stellar GPA, especially like when your senior year comes around. And it's less about, you know, just like a signal and more about becoming a person who is able to earn an awesome GPA. You know, just like really knowing yourself, your efficiency, time management.
Great, thank you, Morgan. Shloka, so what does your job entail? What are you doing day to day, key projects, and then how do you see it like relating to econ if it does?
Yeah, for sure. So, okay, so what I'll basically do is I can break down my previous role because that was the role that I did straight out of college and I got hired for a program. And then I'll give you guys a little bit insight on my current role. And then I can tell you guys how it relates to econ. So starting off, I started at Oracle as a business development consultant, which is a pre-sales role. Which is, you know, not very heard of. Usually people who study econ go into sales, but I feel like that is definitely a possibility because here I am. So in my day-to-day role as a business development consultant, I was firstly part of a training program, which was a 12-week training program, which involved you know, classroom style training and a little bit more. And then it kind of transitioned into a more hands-on training, which I feel like was amazing because straight out of college, you know, you're like, okay, I'm starting, you know, my first job in the workforce. like, what am I supposed to do? So I was really happy to be part of a training program because I felt like it really did set me up for success. It was very comprehensive. And, I feel like the transition was very smooth. And then as a role as a BDC, I had to not only do research on the 500 accounts that I had, but I also had to work with a field rep. And in my case, I actually had 3 different field reps because I had 3 different territories, which were all different industries. So some of the main industries that I focused on was, consumer packaged goods, retail, quick service restaurants, financial services company, and telecommunications company. So not only did I have to do research in all of those industries, but I also had to look individually, into accounts that my field rep and I wanted to target. And then, come up with campaigns, which, involved email campaigns. I had to do cold LinkedIn messaging. I had to do cold calling, setting up demos with different accounts, have presenting to those accounts the different solutions that matched to the needs that they were looking for, not what we wanted to show them. So I feel like that was not only challenging because, there's a first time for everything, your first cold call, your first meeting, your first demo, but you also learn how to, read the room. You learn how to kind of understand different businesses, their processes, what are their top priorities, and how they apply to what we are selling. So I think that was amazing for my first role ever. And then I kind of got promoted after 10 months into a more hands-on sales role where, thank you, where I was actually aligned my own accounts. And, I was doing a hybrid role of an account manager where I was managing current installs that, they already had an Oracle product. How do you, have to do the renewal. So renew their subscription, do some upselling where, okay, they are paying so much for this, but they are using it more. They need to get more. Expansions, cross-selling, where I'm working with people in other departments to kind of hone in on different deals where, okay, they're using product ABC, but they could be using product XYZ, and overall they would have an amazing and a more comprehensive structure, and that would kind of build well together. So work with people from other teams to bring in different products. Oh, they're overusing our product, like that's not cool, they need to buy more. So I feel like it was just these small things too that makes the role really exciting. And then of course I have to bring new business into Oracle as well. So not only within these accounts, but I have a lot more accounts that have other Oracle products, but they don't have the product that I specialize in. So I have to go in, try to get that introduction started where hey, you use product ABC, why don't you look into product XYZ, because you are using something similar for another company, but having a more overall kind of Oracle household would benefit you overall, and we could get you better prices for these products as well. So that's what I'm currently doing right now. And I think how it kind of dives into Econ is, I feel like Econ is not only it's not only analytic, but I also feel like you are put in so many different situations, especially once when you're done with, some of the intro level classes, and, you do your intermediate micro and macroeconomics, and then you kind of get to pick the classes you want to specialize in. I feel like that's where a lot of my learning happened, because how many presentations do we have to give? A lot. And I feel like, the more confident you get speaking in front of a crowd, the more confident you get talking to someone, especially when you're presenting maybe to just your professor, they know what you're talking about. So that's where the research comes in. When you're writing research papers, you're giving different presentations, you're working in teams. I feel like these are the 3 main things that I took away from my econ major, especially writing research papers, because when you are researching, for a specific class, for a specific topic, it's a niche. And I feel like that's a lot of what I do in my role, where I have a specific industry and then I have accounts within that. And I kind of need to piece the puzzle together and figure out which product from my product suite would make the most sense to introduce to them and how it will relate to their business. So I feel like that's one huge takeaway. I would like, I feel like Morgan had more specific classes, but I feel like overall I kind of dipped my toes into a little bit of everything and kind of took away a little bit from all the different classes that I took and converted that into what works for me and what I'm doing right now.
Awesome. Thank you, Shloka. So I'm loving the questions that are coming into the chat. Some of them kind of have to do with like, how do you figure out your career path? What kind of experiences did you get, like internships and things like that. So let's dive a little bit into that with both of you. So yeah, like how did you figure out what you wanted to do after graduation, and any experiences in college or maybe even in high school? Did it help define your path? Like, did you do research? Did you do an internship or have a leadership position or something like that? Morgan, would you like to start with this?
Yeah, definitely. It kind of brings me back to like 2014 and 2015 when I was asking these questions, because I've met so many upperclassmen through Women in Econ and the Equilibrium journal that we have at Madison. And it just felt like it was like this lifetime away. Everyone was so certain and successful. And I was just like scrambling to get my coursework done and, trying to apply for like an internship. I think one thing that I like to tell the youth, as someone who's on the other side now, is there might not be like one path for you. I feel like there's a lot of pressure to find like the best major, the thing that you're passionate about, like your destiny, your calling in life. But I think it's more likely that like you just have preferences over what kind of work you're doing every day and how you want to have like work-life balance and like how much your identity is tied to your career. And so I think it's good to like kind of understand yourself before you start thinking about it in terms of career, if that makes sense. So like no pressure to, try like every type of internship, and don't expect that one thing is just going to like click for you and you're going to feel happy every day doing it. I would say like cast a broad net. So for me, I actually like started college as a language major. I was studying Russian and Central Asian history and cultures. And I added the econ major because my Midwestern parents were like, you got to have at least one major that will get you a job or whatever. So I was taking it. I definitely was like super scared of math at the time. Like I was going to be someone who took the least amount of math that I could get away with. But I joined Women in Econ, and these girls that I thought were like really cool that started like being my friends in that group, they were all taking econometrics. So I was like, well, I want to get to know them more. I guess I'll take it. I was really panicky. I thought it was going to be like the hardest thing. I really struggled with intro to statistics, but like ended up like that econometrics really clicked for me. And I just thought it was the coolest thing in the world. I never studied statistics or much math in high school. And so trying to like understand or see how people use information to shape public policy and like how causal inference worked. And also all the things that are not causal inference, but that, the average person sort of just assumes as causal inference, that made me want to pursue or at least explore more in a research path or career. So I vaguely knew, what a PhD was at the time, but I, not really. And so like, I would just go online and Google like, how to do economic research. And it would say at a high level, like, oh, you need a PhD, and, how to get a PhD in economics. It was like, you have to study math, all this stuff. So with the help of like the awesome econ advisors that we have at UW-Madison, they sort of like helped me put that more into context. So I started taking more math classes after econometrics. I ended up like really loving it and like majoring in it, which was totally different from like anything that I ever thought I'd do. One of the pals that I had in econometrics, she started working at a place called Education Analytics, which I think is still headquartered like right by Capitol Square. She really liked it. And she was like, I get to do everything we did in econometrics, like for my job now, you should try it. So she helped me like talk to someone there, and I applied for an internship, like a summer internship, or maybe I started part-time during the school year. But I liked that a lot. So I felt like it really helped me develop coding skills. But, you know, as graduation was like coming, I think I was really excited about the opportunity to move outside of Wisconsin. I was born and raised there. And I also, I'm very sorry if you can hear the ambulance in the background. Can you? Okay.
It's okay. We can hear it, but that's okay.
Okay. Well, she's gone now. So yes, so I was there, and I liked the work that I did, sort of like from a technical approach, but I felt like there was a clear difference between, you know, the education policy research I was doing and what I had thought of, or come to know economic research as being. So like, instead of kind of like documenting what did happen, which is what I was doing at education analytics, I really wanted to be learning about how to study, you know, like how incentives are shaping systems. The Fed does do a lot of descriptive research, but there's a little bit of like prescriptive sort of attitude with it as well. So I really liked that. And I think in the end, I was talking to professors, asking for letters of recommendation for different RA jobs, all of which I found through the Monday night emails. I'm not sure, does Elizabeth and Ilsa, do you still send those out?
We sure do. Every Monday night,
yeah.
Once you're a declared econ major, you get signed up for our weekly econ careers newsletter with like, internships and jobs every week.
Yeah, so that was super helpful for me. So I was applying to those, and one of my letters of recommendation was like, I think you should like really consider the Feds. I think that would be a good fit for you. So when I got an interview with the Boston Fed, I just took it right away. I was really excited about the people I interviewed with, and I had visited Boston, you know, in high school. And I thought the public garden was like the most charming thing on earth. So I was ready to move there.
Well, thank you for taking us on that journey, because I think that's really important too for some of the younger students here joining. You know, I see there's a few freshmen that are maybe thinking about econ, but also knowing that like you might come in with some idea of what you want to study, but as you get kind of exposed to or participate in different things, like that really can shape what the next right step is, right? And that's a big part of college too, is like figuring out who you are and what you want and where do you want to go next, right? So thanks for that. Shloka, how about you tell us a little bit about your journey of figuring out what you wanted to do after graduation, and like what kind of experiences, internships, jobs, leadership kind of helped influence that?
Yep, for sure. So I started in 2016, and I think one thing that I always knew is I wanted to be an econ major, because I felt like the career opportunities, in the way that there's so many and there's so many different routes that you can take, like there's no one specific route. So and I loved econ in high school, so I was like, okay, you know, like maybe this is something that is for me. So signed up to be an econ major, and you know, I think after taking few of the mandatory classes, I believe, you know, some of the econ intro classes, and then your intermediate micro and macro and your math, you know, you could declare. And I think that's when I started actually receiving the newsletters that Morgan and Ilsa were talking about. And that's when I actually started learning the different career paths that you can take. And they were absolutely endless. And, you know, during college, I was part of a few different student organizations, ESA included. I was part of the cohort for 2 years, so 2018 to 2019, and then 2019 to 2020, you know, attended a few of their networking events, attended, you know, a few of their informational sessions. And I think that by itself, I think that by itself was such an interesting opportunity, because I think everyone was kind of on the same boat as me, you know, figuring out the different paths that you can take. You know, people want to go into finance, people want to go into consulting, people want to go, you know, into a little bit more policy based, you know, similar to Morgan. So I was also going through that learning curve. And my sophomore year, I actually got a marketing and social media internship at a nonprofit in the arts in New York City. So that was super interesting. You know, I was like, okay, you know, I'm being exposed to all of these different things. I've always been passionate about, you know, I guess marketing as a whole. And few of the things that I have learned from Econ do apply. So I was like, might as well give it a shot. So had a great experience with them. I was actually also an event manager at Wisconsin, so at Memorial Union and a Union South. So I feel like that was also, an option for me where, I was like, okay, I have the opportunity to try all these different things. And the one thing that was great with the econ major is that there were so many different options for electives as well, where, I was like, okay, I'm learning something, a little bit more analytical based. I'm learning, something that is more research based that can be applied to so many different things. I can try other things through these electives as well. So, that's where I was able to, add on a communications major, do 2 different certificates. So I feel like the econ major really set that tone for me, where I was like, okay, I'm doing something very solid here, so I can dip my toes into other things that I am interested in. And actually, through the newsletter, I found a sales internship at Eat Street, which I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar at. It's a food tech company founded in Madison itself. And, they have an amazing office, great startup culture. So my junior year, I was taken on as a sales intern at Eat Street, had an amazing summer with the team, was hired full-time, was hired part-time to continue my internship during school. So I stopped working as an event manager, became a senior sales intern, had the opportunity to try a lot of other things within sales, as well as train all the incoming interns at Eat Street. So I think that's what really built my passion for sales. I did not think it was a possibility. And, I think I was actually talking to Ilsa earlier, and I was like, this is one of the reasons I'm here. I feel like, econ is such a amazing and, open-ended major. And I've not seen a lot of people who do econ and then go into sales. So, I wanted to be that unicorn. I wanted to be able to tell people that, you have that opportunity, you can try other things. And that's the beauty of econ itself. So, while recruiting, I think it was great, especially because I was able to answer a lot of the questions. People were like, oh, you have an econ major and you have these other things, like, what did you learn from your econ major? And, similar to what I said, how econ related to my role, I really used the different experiences that I've had in econ classes, being part of ESA, being part of other student organizations at UW-Madison, and, consciously taking up leadership positions. So I'm put in situations that are uncomfortable and new to me, because if you're not uncomfortable, you're not learning. There's no room for growth if you're like, okay, I need to be out of my comfort zone. Sorry, yes, ESA is Economic Students Association. I should have said that earlier. But so I think, going off of that, because I was able to try so many different things, I kind of figured out what was for me. And I had an amazing opportunity, make it to your student, go to student org fairs, go to career fairs, take one-on-ones with Ilsa. I think I would meet Ilsa at least once or twice a semester, just to discuss how I'm feeling, where I'm at, her opinions. And I think that really, really helps, apply for things that, you're like, okay, read job descriptions and be like, hey, this is something that I could do. Maybe I should try it out. And you never know what will fall into your lap. So I think going off of that, when I was recruiting my senior year, I applied for a bunch of sales positions. I applied for consulting positions. I applied for, a few analyst positions in finance as well. And I was able to get offers in all of them. And then, I was like, okay, here I am, and I have all these different routes that I want to take. Now I would want to go with my gut. And, that's where I landed up at Oracle. And I am so grateful that that's the route that I took, because I feel like I've had the most amazing professional growth and also a great personal growth.
Awesome. You could be like a recruiter for Oracle. You're like, oh my gosh, this is why it's amazing.
Yeah.
So a question that came in from Ethan, and I think this is for you, Shloka, because you had the entrepreneurship certificate, you said, right? Yeah. Can you talk
Yes.
about your decision of like adding that on? Did you consider the business certificate, or what kind of value do you think that added?
Yep, for sure. So I think overall, my entrepreneurship certificate kind of started off where I was like, okay, maybe I want to do something of my own down the line. And I do feel like entrepreneurs in general are kind of masters of a lot of things, and they have to play a lot of different roles when they're either starting up their own company, or even thinking of starting up their own company. So I think going off of that, and it's something that I thought would be great in terms of just trying something different and getting a little bit more of the business knowledge. So I did consider the business certificate, and that was something I was thinking of doing earlier, Ethan. But what happened was I was thinking of doing an econ and actually a marketing major at, I was confused between marketing and information systems management and at the B school. But by the time I was going to apply, I was over credits. So I came in with around 24 credits from high school due to some of my higher level classes in high school. So without realizing it, I was over the credit to apply to be part of the B school. So I was not able to do those classes. And then I think with the entrepreneurship certificate, I was also able to, kind of merge a few. I believe I got credit for one of my econ classes for my entrepreneurship certificate, because it was like knocking two birds with one stone. So I was like, okay, I'm really interested in some of these core entrepreneurship classes. And then few of the electives that I'm taking can be from other schools as well. And that's where I took advantage, where I was like, okay, the classes that I'll be doing at the B school, I'll be able to get that expertise, but I'll also be able to take a few more classes in other electives and still get that entrepreneurship certificate experience. So that is kind of how I made the decision to do the entrepreneurship certificate over the business certificate.
Awesome. Thank you, Shloka. I also put something in the chat as well. And you kind of alluded to this, that the entrepreneurship certificate's a little bit more flexible. You can customize it a little bit more. There's a few classes you can pick. There's core classes, and then there's ones you can pick. At least that's my knowledge of it. And the business school, the business certificate is very much like you take these classes, right? Something I like to highlight too for students if they're thinking like, oh, maybe I'm interested in a certain industry that relates to some of the business school majors. It's like, take a class or two in that department. Sometimes they can be a little bit hard to get into because they fill up, right? But you're still able to enroll in those classes. So whether that's entrepreneurship or finance, or or even any other department.
Yeah, for sure. And just going off of what Ilsa said, I think that is one of the good thing is that when you are an econ major, again, you have so much space for electives. So there's a lot of classes that you can also take that will complement your econ major and kind of set you up for a certain role that you want to go into, or a certain industry you want to go into. And you can kind of make your own, like pick your own classes, make your own, I guess, holistic major is what I'm trying to say.
Yes. Another question, this was kind of a throwback one. So Ada asked earlier about, they're a freshman planning to major in econ, awesome, and curious about how to find economic research that you are interested in on campus. And this is kind of a layered question. I don't know if either of you tried to pursue like research opportunities on campus versus like, Morgan, I know that you did something in education analytics, like versus like trying to get opportunities through classes and projects. Can you guys talk a little bit about gaining research experience?
So I actually did research in communications. I did not do research in econ. So Morgan, if you want to touch upon that, I think that would make more sense.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm going to kind of aggregate a lot of other people's stories in case it's useful to you, Ada, or anyone else. I also did not ever assist professors with research through the campus. But the people who I know that did, it was always because they were just crushing it like so well in a certain class that a professor reached out to them, or maybe met them through office hours and decided to like onboard them as a research assistant. And I think, it's a lot of that has to do with just the way that the university is structured and the fact that it's a really good program, not only at the undergrad level, but also at the graduate level for economics. And so, even though Madison is a research university, a lot of our economists who are conducting research, they have funding that they can use to fund graduate students to be their research assistants, which is potentially a little bit more appealing than taking on an undergrad, because the graduate students have already had the whole undergrad experience. Maybe they've been research assistants before. So like they're obviously going to be stellar, plus they need funding. So it's sort of like a stable matching between the two of them. But that being said, all of the professors in the econ department are like super excited about students who are passionate and really excelling in what they're doing. So my understanding is like there's a few that do some applied work that will take on students to like help clean data and make graphs, like a lot of similar stuff to what you do at the Federal Reserve Bank. One of my friends, who is just sort of like a randomly outstandingly brilliant mathematician, she was contacted by one of our theorists in the department, because she thought that my friend could help solve some differential equation that she needed solved. And then she liked the work that she did. And so they just kept working together. But I would encourage people who are interested in finding research on campus to also look in other departments. So I think it's the agricultural economics department. They do a lot of cool applied research. So I think there might be opportunities there. Otherwise, maybe like the political science department. I know one of my friends from Women in Econ worked as a research assistant for a law professor, I believe, who was doing something kind of similar, like economic research wise. So I would say like, don't be too deterred if you can't find something in the econ department. It's just like the way that it is at our school, but like I would say apply to a lot of research internships and stuff like that. Like there's a lot in DC, or like I know the University of Chicago has a lot of summer research experience for econ majors. The Federal Reserve has a bunch of internships. So just like apply for whatever you can. Keep an open mind, kind of like check out anything that becomes available. And then if you are interested in something that you've learned about through your classes, you can take, I forget the course number, but there's
Econ 580 maybe?
Yes, 580. So there's a thesis kind of like prep course. I think it's primarily for honor students, but like, by the time that you're a junior, if you have a good transcript under your belt and you can make a compelling case on why you want to take it, my understanding is that you can usually get in, and so you can actually like conduct your own research and the professor will kind of walk you through it. Sometimes after that, people choose to pursue like a formal thesis for their senior year. You can also do independent studies with a professor of your choice. So, if you take like a class in analytical public finance and you learn that you're really interested in like how insurance works, maybe you can contact that professor in a future semester and you can say, I've organized these readings that I want to do. Could you help me like think of some kind of, semester long projects to go along with it? It's very exploratory. And I think if you're interested in like a research assistantship or research job after graduation, having some kind of project or something on your transcript that like strongly demonstrates your own curiosity is like very helpful. Yeah. I think the best way to figure out what kind of research you're interested in is just to sort of read. So throughout like all the classes at UW-Madison, your professors will always assign reading, and sometimes it's optional and sometimes it's required, but you're never tested on it. But I think what really makes a difference is just always doing the readings that you're told to do. And I know that might sound kind of obvious, but for whatever reasons, like a lot of people just don't read. And yes, like you can spend all this time in school, these next 4 years or so, like taking a first order condition, setting it equal to 0 and turning in your problem set. But if you really want to get the most out of your education, like I think you do need to read books and the news and just whatever your professors and TAs are recommending.
Thanks, Morgan. That answer about research was like everything I would have said plus like more. So yeah, it is definitely like kind of a self, motivated, initiated type thing, because we do have so many PhD students. But yeah, looking outside of other departments. I'm going to put a link in the Oops, I muted myself. I'm going to put a link in the chat as well that goes to the UW Student Job Center. And these are usually like on-campus positions. And within those, like sometimes it's other departments will put research positions on there, or even if you're interested in research, thinking through like, what about research? And like, is there a certain, other department that kind of aligns with that to reach out to faculty, or building up skills through like the Student Job Center, getting a job that's focused on data analysis or statistical analysis or something like that, because that'll make you more competitive for research related internships, jobs, grad school, all of those things, if that's of interest to you. Annalise, you have your hand raised. Do you want to ask a question?
Yeah, I thought I would, camera on and speak it just to, give you guys a break from the chat. But I am a junior and I'm looking at internships at the Fed, the main board, but also some of the systems banks. And I was kind of wondering like what it's like going between them, if you like know anything about that. Like if I interned at the board, would that help me if I applied to a position in the New York Fed Bank? Or do you know anything about how that works?
Yes. This is another thing I wish that I would have known as an undergrad. So first things first, I think that the internships at all of the different Federal Reserves, like the recruiting criterion are vastly different. So like if you apply to the Boston Fed, generally when we are hiring an intern, it's already for a specific project. And the economists know, like they have in mind exactly what skills they need their intern to have. So year after year, I was rejected from the Boston Fed for internships. And I thought for sure I was going to be rejected again, like right away for the research assistant position. But because the research assistant positions are like more broad, like I got a call back right away. Like that was mind blowing to me at the time. It's also the case that like when we are recruiting for research assistants and we see any kind of Federal Reserve experience, like that is flagged as a positive thing. So one of my classmates she's now doing her PhD in public policy at the University of Chicago, and she was an RA at the board for 2 years. Her junior year internship, or I forget what they're labeled, the one it sounds like you're applying for, that was with the San Francisco Fed, and she actually interned in like a statistics department as opposed to like the proper research department. But she like demonstrated that she sort of had some kind of inkling about like what was expected as a Federal Reserve Bank employee. She obviously was getting like good quantitative experience. And so she was snatched up like right away by the board. So that was really exciting for her. I think if you do get an internship at one of the systems banks and they really like you, it will be very easy to get a full-time offer the next time that you apply. I don't think that moving between would be like a problem at all. Previous Federal Reserve experience, as well as previous consulting internships, really any kind of like vaguely related research internship in general is like looked really highly upon. So if it comes down to like, let's say like best case outcome, you're getting internship offers from a bunch of different feds and you're thinking, oh, I really want to be at the board for 2 years after graduation. You are totally safe to just pick the system fed you want based on the city or wherever your friends are interning that summer. And it will not hurt your chance at applying to another fed after graduation.
Great, thank you. And then following up on that with the research assistantships, are you also taking classes? Like I heard that that's like common to take classes and that they help with like tuition, possibly.
Yeah, so that will vary from Fed to Fed. It exists at every Fed. I think the amount of tuition reimbursement you get varies, but that's because the prices of the local universities vary. And so then it sort of like also varies with the starting salary, because they're like really into fairness at the Federal Reserve Bank. So everything is like calculated to make sure that things are adjusted for cost of living. But I think a lot of people like to take supplementary math classes, or, you know, sit in on a PhD level course, or like maybe add some statistics. There's like a general, you know, line of like what you can do, but they're not too strict about what you take, as long as it can be justified that it's useful to your role at the Federal Reserve Bank, which all the classes you'd want to take for graduate school are. But yeah, I think it's like a really good opportunity. And then when you get to that point, it's really nice to be able to talk to your peers and like the economists that you work for about what might be the right class for you.
Thanks
Yeah,
so much,
thank
Morgan.
you.
Yeah, you guys should connect offline too. I feel like you'd have more to kind of chat about if that's something that sounds good.
Feel free on LinkedIn.
Yeah. Connecting with alums, that's part of this is like, you know, free networking, but then you can follow up too. So I have a couple different questions. I know we're running a little bit low on time. Something that I think someone asked earlier, and like Morgan, you had said something about having like a stellar GPA. So, but I'm going to pop this over to Shloka, the question itself. What do you think students should focus on while they're in school to be competitive for internships and full-time positions? And I know that this varies depending on the industry, but that's a question that I get from students a lot.
Yeah, for sure. So in all honesty, I actually started off college and I had a very rough first semester of my freshman year, and my GPA was not the best, but I feel like that happens to a lot of people, you know, like college is it's a tough transition. You know, I moved countries. I'm from Mumbai, India, and I came to Madison, Wisconsin, and I was like, wow, this is a change, you know. So I did not have the best GPA starting out. That's okay. You can always make up for it. You know, obviously you have to work hard, but there is a lot of other factors that go into, you know, when you're recruiting for internships and full-time jobs. I, for one, you know, of course, you know, make sure that you are trying to link your classwork with what you want to kind of pursue during your college career. I would say, of course, you know, take different initiatives in college. I would say, you know, I did research. I was part of multiple student organizations, and I feel like because of that, I was able to pick on so many different skills. I was part of a dance team, you know, and I feel like that by itself, you know, you're like, how can you relate being on a dance team to, you know, a real life situation? That's the thing, you can. So one thing that I really focused on, which I myself was very passionate about, was extracurriculars. I think throughout my college career, I was part of 7 student organizations and I held leadership positions in 3 of them. So I think just taking that experience, you know, because you are working with people, you are managing people, you know, you're put in situations of crisis, you know, where your first instinct may be to panic, but because you know that people under you are going to panic, you have to take charge. So I feel like, you know, exposing yourself to those kind of situations really do, like, it really does help, you know, set yourself up, especially, you know, when in internships, because, you know, when you're applying for a full-time job out of college or for an internship, you aren't expected to have years of experience. So when you're asked behavioral questions, what examples are you supposed to give, you know? So I feel like that really helps. And by itself, within Econ, I know there's, I think, 4 different organizations you can be part of that directly relate to the major. So that's something I would recommend all of us to do. I know Morgan was in Women in Econ and Equilibrium. I myself was part of Economic Student Organization, you know, where you have opportunities to be part of the executive board to also help organize these events for your organization, which I feel like by itself is a part-time job. So that, you know, definitely puts you in multiple different situations. You are working with so many different people from different backgrounds too, where, you know, you can pick and choose what you want to learn from the people around you. So I would say extracurriculars is definitely something you should invest time in, because it does come a long way, and you do make not only meaningful connections, but you get a lot of experience from exposing yourself to countless situations, countless experiences. I would also say, definitely try to be part of as many networking events as you can. Like, for example, I think Ilsa does an amazing job within Econ itself, to try to keep everyone really engaged and, give people the exposure that I received in college, but, also, through the College of Letters and Sciences itself, there's so many other opportunities. There's so many networking experiences, career panels that you can be part of, even if it's not your own major and you think it's something that's interesting, go check it out. I think that by itself, again, exposes you to so many different people, opportunities, other people's experiences that you can learn from. And you never know, you may find yourself in the same situation, but you're hearing from someone who does something completely different. So I would say that's something you should take part of. I think also, we're so busy in college with our classes and, extracurriculars. If you have time, try to do a part-time job as well, because that will expose you. Again, I feel like, sometimes I feel like a parrot, but you are that way putting yourself to get exposed to different situations. You're working with people, you have a supervisor who can vouch for you. When you apply for internships, people ask you for references. So you should have references that, maybe a professor, maybe you worked somewhere as a part-time job, and they have someone who can vouch for you can build that credibility with the people that you're working with, so they can actually vouch for you when you've I guess you've put yourself out there, you've gone through the interviews, you've interviewed well. But it's also important to have great I would say recommendations from people around you, people who you've worked with, people who you've interacted with. So focus on building that as well. And I would actually tie that to research. One person who I always give as a reference to me from college is the research professor that I worked under. And, I think that even though it was just one semester where I was able to fit in research, I think I was able to build such a strong rapport with the professor I was working with that she till date is in touch with me. And, she sends people my way as well to, talk about my experiences, how, I balance research, with the course load as well. So I would say, try your best to expose yourself to as many different opportunities as you can within college, because they're endless. You just have to go find them, try something out, see if it works for you. If it does, amazing, continue with it. If it doesn't, that's totally okay. You now know something that you don't like, so you won't put yourself in that position again, and you will have room to explore other things. So I would say, take everything as a learning opportunity, put yourself in positions to be challenged, to learn from other people. And all of that overall will help so much when you are recruiting, not only for internships, but also for full-time positions, because people are not only looking at your GPA or your extracurriculars, they are looking for a holistic candidate, to fill these roles, for someone who will be able to tackle whatever comes their way in whatever position they're applying for.
That was beautifully stated, Shloka, and even incorporated like advice and wisdom and just all of the things. So thank you. Yeah.
Of course.
Morgan, anything you wanted to add to that?
Yes, I would like to add, well, I guess this is copying you now, Ilsa, but that was beautifully articulated. And I don't mean to detract from it at all, because I feel like you did, Shloka, like you did a wonderful job of mapping like how these extracurriculars directly translate to your career. But I also just kind of want to like add as a summary that everything you're describing is also just part of becoming who you are and just figuring yourself out. Not everything you do in college needs to directly, like further your career. Like when she was talking about being on a dance team, like, yes, you learn how to like manage people underneath you and deal with stressful situations, but that's not just useful for like applying for your job, although it totally is. It's also just helping you, become a person who can get any job that they want. You're just becoming like more confident and awesome. So So don't worry too much about like the job part of it. Live a little as well, and like enjoy. Yeah, like the message just said, like have a ton of fun.
Oh my
I
God,
love
yeah,
that.
absolutely. Just going off of that, I had a ball in college, guys. I enjoyed everything I did. And you don't have to do something because it will help you in career advancement. Things that you love and you pursue will automatically help you in career advancement because it makes you a happier person. It makes you a brighter person. It makes you a more experienced person, whatever that experience is. So, for example, like Morgan said, I was on a dance team. I joined a dance team because I loved dancing and I loved,
Mm,
being part of a community. But that automatically kind of helped me take that experience and make it into something that I could use during a job interview. But that did not take away from the fun and the time that I dedicated into being in a dance team. So Morgan, thank you so much for bringing that up because yes, that is equally important.
yes. Yeah. Thank you both for that. Cause I think, my role is within the Econ Career Development Office, right? And so it's very much focused on students talking about like, what do you want to do for a career? What are you interested in? But so much of that too is, well, who are you? What do you care about in life? What do you value? How does that relate to like work-life balance or other, do you care really about family and value that and want to be close to them versus, maybe not wanting to be close to them, right? Like there's that balance, wanting a new experience. So thank you. I just think that that's so important too for us to remind ourselves that yes, careers are just one part of who we are. There's other things too that kind of make up who we are. We're almost at 7 o'clock. I did have one more question that I wanted to ask to you, Shloka. Did you have to navigate CPT and OPT processes?
No, I did not.
Okay.
Yep, I did not. But I mean, all of my friends did, so I have a little bit info. But I would say if you are navigating CPT and OPD processes, yes, take advantage, of the international student services that are provided at Madison, and also try to find someone, who's a year or two older to you, or someone who you may know is an international student, and speak to them as well, because I feel like the experiences that people have had would also be very helpful for you to know. So if you guys want, if anyone is an international student, anyone here, or Ilsa, if you know someone as well, I can definitely connect them with people who have been international students, to kind of help them navigate that area as well.
Awesome. Thank you. That's a
Of
very
course.
common question that we get is like, I want to talk to alums who've navigated this when they're, international students on F1 visas, especially. But so those are, I think, all the questions that I had for today. I just wanted to thank you both so much for taking time out of your evening after a long, work day, doing all of the great things that you do, sharing your resources, sharing your wisdom and all of that. Thanks for being great Badger alums. And thank you to everybody too who's attending here tonight. I know it's a very kind of like busy time of the semester. You're, 2 weeks out till finals. Every student I've been talking to is like, oh my gosh, I have so many tests and projects, and Morgan and Shloka, I'm sure you remember that that time. So kudos to you for attending, because this is also a great learning opportunity for you. So yeah, have a great night. Thank you all so much.
Yes. Thank you so much for having us. This was a great experience. And yes, I just posted in chat. Feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn. We're happy to, talk one-on-one as well. If you have friends who would, also have similar questions who are not able to make it, always happy, to give back to the Econ department.
Thank you both.
Awesome. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Good luck on your finals.
Good luck, everyone. And enjoy your holidays. I know everyone really, really needs them. Bye.
Bye.